Have you ever wondered which dinosaurs you should get as a pet, Aaron?
Honestly, this is a thought that crosses my mind. It's at least 3 times a day.
Good, good, good. I've got a list of five different dinosaurs, which I feel all have their benefits, their pros and cons. Some you may know, some you may not know. And which one would make the best reasonable house pet? Now, there's obviously no T-Rexes on this list
Yeah.
because you're not going to fit them in your house. So
I think I've already mentioned on an episode in a creature feature which one I'd have as a pet, but let's see if you
fair enough.
include that on the list.
Well, if you've ever dreamed of having a dinosaur as a pet, the science hasn't quite caught up yet to this idea. But let's imagine for a moment you could keep a dinosaur in your house. Which one would you have? Which one would be the best fit? So we'll explore these five different dinosaurs, detailing their origins, behaviors, and what it might be like to care for them. Also, we'll give them a bit of a ranking as well in terms of feeding costs, space, temperament, appeal, and experience needed. So our first one on the list is probably the one that there's probably a good chunk of you are actually saying, yes, I want that dinosaur. Velociraptor mongoliensis.
Okay.
The ultimate predator pet, shall we say. So its name obviously means swift or speedy thief, and it's found in the Cretaceous period from about 75 to 71 million years ago in Mongolia, hence the Mongoliensis part of its name.
Of course.
So it's probably one of the most famous dinosaurs, thanks to its portrayal in Jurassic Park and various other films, which have just jumped onto the bandwagon with that. But the real Velociraptor, as we know, is much smaller than its Hollywood counterpart, standing about knee-high to an adult human, with feathers, obviously, the other big thing covering it. Despite its size, it was a formidable predator, equipped with sharp claws, serrated teeth, probably more like that of a monitor lizard than sort of just a sharp, pointy thing, I suppose, and intelligence as well to boot. So it's got a problem-solving mind that would allow it to work out how to find its prey. In a pet scenario, though, this would make for an interesting combination, I feel. It would be fascinating, but also potentially highly dangerous, and would require constant supervision or at least a highly controlled environment, much like keeping any sort of predatory species in an urban setting, which is not ideal, shall we say. So think of it in terms of keeping this animal as you've got a lot of responsibility with this one. This is not for the sort of neglectful dinosaur owner. So the pros, they are highly intelligent, probably very trainable as well.
I would have said so.
Potentially responding to commands like a well-trained bird of prey or dog. And I imagine you could probably, in my mind, I would imagine you could do falconry with a non-flying animal like a velociraptor. You basically launch this turkey-sized thing off your arm and let it run after its prey. But yes, I imagine they would be exceedingly, good in a trained situation. They're going to be extremely agile and active, making for an entertaining and impressive companion. You're certainly going to get noticed with this animal. And could serve as an excellent guard pet. No one's getting into your house if you've got one of these roaming around because, well, it's not just going to latch on with its sharp claws, but those serrated teeth are going to do a lot of damage to anyone who tries to mess with your little fluffy terror, shall we say. So basically, think of it like a German Shepherd in some ways, but maybe not as strong a bite in some ways. But I think it could be on that sort of on a par. More like probably living with a wolf than anything, I suppose.
That's the analog I'm drawing. Is more like a wolf.
A pet coyote, which is a bad idea because the cons, it's extremely dangerous. A single misstep could see you having severe injuries or even worse. And that may be, just by doing normal things with this animal. It doesn't even have to get aggressive. It would likely be a danger to small children, pets, or strangers, and their pets, basically seeing them as potential prey. So this is not an animal to have in the house if you have a cat, because the cat's going to go missing, and the velociraptor is going to be nice and fed for the week. Also, small children, like I say, you're not taking this thing out to the local play park because it's not going to end well. And I don't think anyone makes a velociraptor muzzle at the moment, but you never know. It also need highly reinforced escape-proof sort of garden to make sure that it doesn't just scramble over your back fence and goes and eats next door's cat.
This would be one of those pets that you would be okay building an enclosure to keep them in as opposed to predators out.
Yes.
Because the predators on the outside are not the issue.
Yeah, basically, if this thing got out,
getting in there and taking that out.
no. So also feeding costs, you've got to take into account that you are buying in meat. Now, it's probably likely that you'd be feeding this thing something along the lines of rats or chickens, because its diet would be made up of, well, small mammals, lizards, and small birds or other small dinosaurs in this case. You could basically feed it on a diet of that. But if you're going to be feeding this thing a chicken every couple of days, that's going to add to the food bill. And whenever it comes to telling people about keeping pet reptiles or pet snakes, you're going to have to keep those mice or rats in the fridge or the freezer. So be used to that.
You're going to need a chest freezer just
Oh,
for your
yes.
pet.
Yeah. So ratings wise, for its feeding costs, it's going to be 5 out of 5. It's expensive. This is going to cost you a bit in the long run. Space requirements, 4 out of 5. Needs a large sort of area that's reinforced as well. You're probably going to have to do a bit of modification.
No door handles.
Thankfully,
joke.
Thankfully, they can't open door handles. Temperament, it gets a 1 out of 5 because of its aggressive and unpredictable nature. Now, it's the same with any carnivorous or predatory animal. There's a chance that it may see little fluffy kitten walking down the road as its next snack, and you don't want to be explaining why you're bringing back a bit of it to the next door neighbor. Appeal, though, it gets 5 out of 5. Everyone wants a velociraptor. You are going to be the person who everyone wants to see. They're going to go, can I see it? So you probably have to just tell people to go away. Or they set the velociraptor on them, I suppose. And experience needed, this is going to be 5 out of 5. It's only going to be for the experienced dinosaur handler, this one, I think. It's not a beginner species. So we move on to one that's slightly less known, but certainly is a species that I think might be more acceptable. This is Aquilops americanus. Can you guess where it comes from? And it's
Jersey.
Its name means eagle face, Aquila and ops. So
yeah,
basically, it's a ceratopsian dinosaur, the same family as Triceratops and all the other horned dinosaurs.
Not a seagull-faced Jersey animal. Then.
No. So it's from the late Cretaceous period, about 106 million years ago, in Montana specifically. And Aquilops was a small herbivore that was about the size of a house cat. So a really quite compact little dinosaur. It was unlike its larger relatives in that it walked on 2 legs most of the time, and would have probably gone on 4 legs, but spent most of its time on 2 legs. Didn't have big horns, but still had a little bit of a frill at the back. So this is not a Triceratops that you are looking after here. You're definitely not getting one of those in your house. So because of its size, Aquilops was probably quite manageable and relatively low maintenance. It likely behaved somewhat a bit like a modern day rabbit or guinea pig in the sense that it preferred quiet, comfortable environments where it can eat and hide if startled. It's probably going to be a little bit skitty, especially if your next door neighbor has got a velociraptor. So this pet would make an excellent first time addition for someone who's looking for that dinosaur to have in their house. I don't imagine as well it's going to be too high maintenance. It may end up scratching up the place a bit, but yeah, it's probably not a terrible idea. I certainly wouldn't say no to having one of these scuttling around the place. So the pros for keeping this species, they're small, so relatively easy to house inside, and require about the same amount of space as, say, a large rabbit or small dog. So you could have them roaming around the house, somewhat similar to your rabbit, I suppose.
Yeah.
You'd probably want to give them a good amount of time outside as well. So I would still say you need to have a secure garden where they can go and graze. They're a herbivore, so their diet is going to be made up mostly of things like ferns, cycads, and plants like that.
I
So
imagine that'd be expensive to get all the ferns, though.
it could be expensive. Depends on where you're living, though. In
Mm.
some parts of the world, and in
That's
fact,
true.
even in
Yeah,
the
fair
UK,
enough.
we get quite a few ferns. So
We
as long as you can get bracken and
do,
things like
yeah.
that to eat, they're probably going to be happy.
Fair enough.
So they've probably got a docile temperament, making it a safe pet for families or individuals looking for a low maintenance companion. Although, just like with rabbits, they can be occasionally grumpy moments. So, anything like
Also,
that.
I'm surprised just how intelligent rabbits are.
Yeah.
So,
So the cons of this animal, it could probably chew on the furniture, a bit like, well, pet rabbits do as well, making it possible that it could cause issues indoors, with it basically sort of just marking the side of things. It's got a relatively tough head, so it may scrape against
yeah.
things. They might be skittish, requiring patient and slow socialization. This is probably not a species of dinosaur to have in the house if you've got noisy children. It'll probably stress them out too much and cause all sorts of issues with it then rushing off and banging into things.
Yeah.
It may not be as interactive or as engaging as some of the more large and more intelligent species of dinosaur, but I still think, for its size, I think it's quite a cool species to have. Now, for its ratings, we've given this one a feeding cost of 2 out of 5. Affordable plant-based diet. It's, it's doable.
Mm.
You could probably have some bits of fruit in there from its time period. Flowering plants have evolved as well by this point. So, you know, space requirements, 2 out of 5. Relatively backyard friendly and in the house friendly as well. Temperament, 4 out of 5. Gentle but timid. So it's going to be not one that you want to be too loud around, I think. Appeal, 3 out of 5. Cute, but certainly not going to be anywhere close to having a pet velociraptor. And experience, probably 2 out of 5, and it would probably be suitable for most beginners to be able to get away with having this as a species. Now, this is one that I've wanted to add onto our creature feature list and will eventually be on there. A species that I absolutely have adored since I found out about them and would definitely be on my list to have. Echinoderm, Beckles eye, the tiny little heterodontosaurid from the UK. So not only is this a British dinosaur, if you're wanting to buy British dinosaurs, I don't know, its name means spiny tooth or hedgehog tooth, and it was found in the early Cretaceous right here in the UK, about 140 million years ago. Now, Echinoderm was a small herbivorous, but probably could be omnivorous, so there's a good chance you might be able to bulk its diet out with a bit of everything. About the size of a rabbit, so another small little fella, this one, making it a perfect species to have indoors. However, its personality is probably more akin to that of a tortoise, being slightly stubborn, independent, and probably uncooperative as a pet. Now, I'm basing that on opinions of other people about how these animals might have lived. I don't know. I've never kept one. I'd love to. So that doesn't require a huge amount of commitment, but still a massive novelty as a species to anyone wanting to look after them. They have little tusks that stick out on either side, a bit like a pig. They had lovely little hands for being able to scrabble at things and be able to find food. And they have these lovely sort of ridge of proto-feather like hairs running down their tail.
Oh, right.
So really fascinating looking thing, one of my favorites. So pros for this animal, it's small. It's probably going to be manageable and easy to have in a house as well. So just like Aquilops, it's probably going to be perfect for your smaller home. Herbivorous diet and possibly omnivorous diet. Sorry, omnivorous diet basically means it's going to be able to eat a bit of everything. Some insects as well as some vegetation, bit of everything in there. Probably far more omnivorous, but with a good chunk of vegetation in there as well. It wouldn't need a massive enclosure, although just a safe place for it to feel tucked away if it wanted to, a bit like a dog crate or something like that, where it can hide away. I imagine having something a bit similar to the sort of cat trees that you can get, where it's like a little hide. Something like that would be quite cool for it. The cons: it may have a stubborn, independent personality and may not respond well to being trained or handled. It may not want to come anywhere near you if it's feeling a bit cornered. And there is a good chance that it may want to burrow as well, because these animals are thought to have lived in dens and burrows underground. So it may try and damage your furniture and burrow into the side of your sofa.
So,
Now, they may not be particularly social either, which means that it might be a bit hard for them to form those sort of bonds that you want to have as a pet. It may be a very sort of standoffish animal, and you may have to do the majority of the socializing work to try and get it to like you.
yeah, I can think of a few modern day pets that, even though sugar gliders become very strongly bonded, you do have to put a lot of effort in to get to that point.
Yeah. So ratings wise, feeding cost, 2 out of 5. They're pretty easy to maintain. Space requirements, 1 out of 5. This is probably the smallest animal on this list, and would be relatively at home in most homes. Temperament, 3 out of 5. Probably a bit aloof. Appeal, 2 out of 5. Cute but not remarkable. Yet again, although to me it's a 5 out of 5 for me, because I love this species.
I like that you've tried to keep your bias out of the. You've tried to leave your bias at the door, come in, do your job, and then you'll collect your bias on the way back.
Basically, yeah.
Really mature of you, Gareth.
Experience needed. Well, 2 out of 5. Low maintenance, but requires some patience. And I'd also like to add, probably not one that you want to leave unsupervised in the garden, especially if it starts to burrow. So you may have to then go digging it out.
You're going to have to do a lot of prep work before the animal comes. You're going to have to do under mesh the ground.
Probably. Or just have a run for it outside where it can go. Now, the next one is probably the next most famous animal on this list, is Archaeopteryx lithographica, the feathered friend to you and me, meaning ancient wing from the Jurassic about 150 million years ago from Germany. This is a species that I can imagine people would want to have as a pet, just to be able to stand with it there on their arm. So Archaeopteryx is often considered to be that missing link between dinosaurs and birds, although it is just another dinosaur bird. And it wasn't even the first, because we've got so many since then, but it is the first that really sort of springboarded the idea to people's minds when its fossils were first found. So it is of importance, I would say, even though it is not the first transitional species as such.
No.
So it's roughly about the size of a crow, so certainly worthy of being held on your hand. Capable of gliding, possible short bursts of flight, but probably just the gliding aspect of it. Keeping one would probably require the same sort of setup that you would for a parrot or maybe a bird of prey. Social interactions and a proper aviary environment. And I would like to add, you probably need to have a good number of climbing perches, a nice tall aviary to be able to leap and throw itself from perch to perch.
Again, I'm thinking kind of macaw crossed with a sugar glider.
Yeah, basically, yeah. So the pros of this species, small and light, in that it's going to be nice and easy to handle. Requiring an aviary rather than a large fenced backyard area, it's going to need to have a decent-sized aviary, and you could do some really amazing stuff with that, I think. Intelligence, it's probably quite intelligent and trainable, likely to form a bond with its owner. It is, at the end of the day, it's a small raptor-like dinosaur, so it's relatively intelligent. Its appearance and its abilities and its history around it is going to make it one of the most fascinating pets that you could ever hope to have. The cons: flight capabilities make it difficult to contain them. There's a good chance if you took this thing out and it wasn't trained to come back to you, well, it's gone. And you're spending weeks roaming around a forest as it glides above you.
Yeah.
It requires a specialized diet of insects and other small vertebrates, so you're going to be feeding it a diet somewhat similar to probably like a hornbill or something like that. So chicks, mice,
kookaburra, maybe
insects,
kookaburra,
that would be a good thing. So it may be prone to loud vocalizations. Anyone who's kept any kind of large parrot or any sort of large bird will know that birds like to make noise. And there's a good chance that this may be doing exactly that. So if you've got your aviary set in the garden with your lovely little flock of Archaeopteryx in there, there's a chance they might annoy the neighbors and they'll set their velociraptor on you. So ratings wise, feeding cost is about 3 out of 5. Not too bad, but it's a varied diet, so you're going to have to buy some specialized stuff. Space requirements, 2 out of 5. It's going to be living in an aviary, so as long as you can build that aviary and give it a good amount of space, you're not going to be, modifying your house too much. Temperament, 4 out of 5. It's likely trainable, a bit like a parrot. Yeah. So, you could do a bit of interesting interaction with it. Appeal, just like the Velociraptor, this is that first feathered dinosaur that was found. People are going to want to see it. So experience-wise, 4 out of 5. It's probably best for people who kept birds before, or, not just your budgie in the cage in the corner, but we're talking different species of birds, those sort of things. So your experienced falconer or aviculturalist. So our final species that I wanted to throw in there was Liaoningosaurus paradoxus, which is possibly one of the oddest looking little dinosaurs that you'll ever come across. This is a small, about the same sort of size. Well, this is potentially just a juvenile, a small and possibly up to dog-sized ankylosaur.
Oh, okay.
So if you're wanting to have a slightly different pet, this might be the one for you. So this is a species of dinosaur from Liaoning province in China. As you may be able to guess, it basically means Liaoning lizard. Essentially, Liaoningosaurus is one of those dinosaurs that has, the armor-plated skin of other ankylosaurs, but it does not have that big club on the end of its tail. And the weird thing is, the fossil evidence shows that these guys might have been semi-aquatic and may even be eating fish and things like that. So imagine a small semi-aquatic ankylosaur with a very different diet that lives like a turtle. So this is definitely going to have some curb appeal for what you might want. Yeah, so cool. The pros for keeping this species is it is going to be something totally different. It is going to be different in the sense of your just general knowledge on how to keep an ankylosaur. This is going to be very different. The other big pro is that this is an ankylosaur, which most of them are car-sized animals, but this is a smaller version, shrunk down, that will fit in your house. So you're getting that nice compact side of things. Now, obviously, the cons kind of outweigh the pros in this, for the simple reason you're probably going to have some sort of pond or something for it to be able to go and have a swim in. Yeah. A decent-sized pond as well, and it's probably going to have to be more of a swimming pool than a pond, I'd imagine. There's a good chance as well if this animal is eating a diet that is mixed with fish, frogs, all sorts of aquatic plants, you're going to have to fit a specialized diet in there for this animal as well. There is every chance as well that if you've got this guy roaming around your house and he bumps into things, possibly going to do damage. Those armored plates on his body are going to keep him nice and protected, but certainly not the edge of your furniture. So not something that is going to be for your average beginner. This is going to be someone who wants to go slightly more to the exotic side of things. So as for ratings, its feeding cost is probably around the same as Archaeopteryx, so sort of 3 out of 5. Fish is obtainable, you can certainly buy meats and things like that it might have eaten, but also plants as well. Watercress and lots of other aquatic plants like reeds are relatively easy to get your hands on. Space requirements, this is probably going to be more 4 out of 5 because you're going to have a specialized pond or swimming pool. If you're lucky enough to have a swimming pool, this is the dinosaur that will come swimming with you. So that is cool. Yeah, could be potentially fun. May enjoy a trip to the beach. You never know.
Take it on the paddleboard.
There you go. Yeah. Temperament, it's probably going to be a 2 or a 3 out of 5. For the simple reason, it's an ankylosaur. They're not the brightest of animals. So it's going to possibly be a bit stubborn. Imagine keeping something like a pet sheep, I'd imagine,
Yeah.
uh, as to how well it's going to do stuff. Still trainable, though, just going to be a bit harder to
Bit of a
work
challenge.
things out. Appeal, I think personally, this is going to be at least a 4 out of 5 because this is an animal that people are going to go, "What on earth is that?"
Okay.
Also, you've got a swimming pool and you go swimming with your dinosaur. I think, yeah, experience, it's going to be a 4 out of 5 as well. This is going to be one that requires that little bit of extra care to be able to keep properly as well. So, yeah, quite an oddity.
Yeah.
So, Aaron, which one of our selection would you be going to the dinosaur pet shop to go and get? What one can I interest you in?
So you actually didn't mention the species that I would have gone for, so
Ah,
I'm
well,
surprised.
okay, which
but
was?
I would have gone with Ambopteryx longobrachia.
Ah, so you want the small bat-sized
The
thing?
little, you can do the whole falconry thing, but it looks like a wyvern.
Yeah, fair enough.
That's just cool. But okay, out of your list, see, when we loaded all this up, I actually caught um your kind of short list at the end, the final rankings list at the end. So I could see what species were coming up, but I hadn't seen anything else. And I've actually opted for the one that I absolutely thought when I saw its name, I thought, well, that is a no straight away. You've actually convinced me.
What you want a you want? I'm going to guess you want a pet velociraptor.
Yeah, I did. I saw your list and I thought, oh, I know. I'm probably going to Archaeopteryx. I'm probably going to Archaeopteryx, possibly Aqualops, because Aqualops is a ceratopsy.
Yeah.
I'm fond of them. Archaeopteryx, of course, I've worked with birds and reptiles that I'd be able to draw from to be able to and also creating a habitat for that would be amazing. I love habitat design. I got to admit the other two are really interesting. Dinosaurs.
Is it not doing it for you?
No, not really.
Oh.
I like it, and I like it certainly more than I would consider the Dinosaurus.
See, I think I'd quite happily have one of them as well.
However, you've convinced me because as you were talking about it, I was thinking, no, not a velociraptor. The more you spoke about it, the more I started thinking, I'm not sure I agree with you. I actually think because even though I am very familiar with what a velociraptor actually is, I can't help but think of when you say pet velociraptor, I think pet Jurassic Park velociraptor. And the more I thought about it, the more I thought about what you're talking about, I was drawing more and more analogies with wolves. Now, I wouldn't recommend anyone keeping a wolf as a pet. I think that goes without saying. However, it is true that First Nation peoples and all manner of tribes across the Northern Hemisphere did domesticate wolves, or rather, wolves domesticated themselves with us. And it happened it wasn't just something that happened once and spread out. It wasn't something that happened simultaneously all around Northern Hemisphere at the same time.
Multiple times.
Multiple times. They are malleable, they are trainable. And I actually think, again, I'm debating whether to say this or not, but I think we're in a crowd who respect animals enough to know what I mean when I say this. I think the danger of the wolf as a pet is oversold. They are incredibly dangerous pets, but you're not keeping a tiger. And
I see. I picture it more a coyote than a wolf, but yeah.
Do you know what? I actually reckon coyotes would be more dangerous than wolves as pets.
Yeah. More unpredictable.
Yeah. I'm still leaning on the analogy of the wolf, and for that reason, I do think I would.
Well,
I think I've gone with the Velociraptor.
I'll order you a Velociraptor tomorrow.
That surprises me.
So the rankings that we've gone with at the sort of the end to give you an idea. So we'll start with what should be the least appealing out of this list, which is exactly what you've gone for, Aaron. It's the Velociraptor. Fascinating, but way too dangerous for your average person to keep.
I agree with both of those statements. They are fascinating and they are way too dangerous for the average person. But then, so are many of the pets that we have around today.
This is true. Echinoderm comes in at number 4. I'm very, very hurt to have put him at number 4. Low maintenance, but probably not as interesting or engaging to your average person. But then again, I don't think these are for the average person.
I think this one deserves second place, to be honest.
Yeah?
Yeah. Taking my biases out.
Fair enough.
I think Velociraptor's in the right place, even though I would choose it. Echinoderm is in the wrong place, I feel.
Liaoningosaurus coming in at 3rd. You've basically got to have that specialized habitat for it. Otherwise, you're going to have some issues. Also, it's the biggest one on this list, other than Velociraptor, which is not as chunky, shall we say.
I think it's an expensive one as well.
Probably,
you can't just have a pond. You're going to have a powerful filter.
Yeah. Aquilops comes in at number 2, small herbivore and docile, but ultimately isn't as interesting to a lot of people and possibly quite skittish. That gives us the number 1 on our list, Archaeopteryx.
Well deserved.
It's that brilliant mix of intelligence, size, probably interaction as well. So if you can afford to build a decent aviary for this animal, you're going to have a pet that is probably going to stand out. To most people, it's going to be appealing, but it's also going to be one that you'll get a lot out of as well.
Yeah. If this was ever possible, which it won't be, but if it ever was, like, please don't start doing like selective breeding for colour morphs.
No.
We don't want colour morph Archaeopteryxes.
Ultimately, this whole point is kind of mute anyway. For the simple reason, you can have a pet dinosaur. They're called birds. There's over 10,000 species of them, and I wouldn't recommend all of them, but birds are living dinosaurs. So if you want to go through all the hassle of either building a time machine and bringing these animals back, or Jurassic Park style and breeding them up to be weird monsters, or you could push all of that aside and you could have a lovely pet budgie. It does just as good. So
Jack Horner, the paleontologist Jack Horner, wasn't he on about trying to switch on genes?
Novosaurs, which we might come to at another point. But yeah, there it is. There's our list of our top 5 dinosaurs that you could have as a small house pet. Let us know if you agree or disagree, which ones you'd want to see. Like I say, we didn't include T-Rex on this list for the simple reason you ain't getting him in your house, even if you've got a big garage. So, there we go. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, whatever you want to say or do to let us know. That always helps us out on the channel. And check out any of the other videos that we have. And check out the full-length podcast episodes on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. So from us, bye.
Bye.
I'm off to go and buy him a Velociraptor.